Good morning, dear Tax. We are here with our friend Özcan Çetin for talking about the recent news about Turkey. No, sorry, it's not Thanksgiving Day. Turkey. Surely about the issues inside and outside in geopolitics about this country, but for sure what happened with Mr. Imamoglu. But by the way, welcome for you to this your house.
Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Which was your approach for this talk?
Well, let me start from the main point of the issue. I guess everyone who's watching this video understand, and everyone know the background of the issues. But let me begin the biggest question raising in mind of people. Will President of Turkey lose power or no? My answer will be basically no. What happened in Istanbul resembles what happened to Mr. Erdoğan like 30 years ago, which opened for him the path of being president. Indeed, he was also mayor of Istanbul. Then he was jailed for a couple of months. Then once he was released, he got sympathy and popularity from the Turkish society. And this is how he started his journey of being prime minister. First a member of parliament, then prime minister, and now president. So many people think it is the same thing will happen. Mr. Imamoglu, he's in jail, and then he will be perhaps in the parliament. Then the next president. Mr. Imamoglu is one of the biggest rival of Mr. Erdoğan, Mr. President of Turkey. In elections, but I not 100% agree with people who think Imamoglu and Erdoğan having the same future. First of all, Erdoğan is quite poor, and he is getting support from the European Union and his fellows in Middle East, and perhaps he had kind of deal with the U.S. regarding what's happening. So, and we are in a stage in diplomacy and global affairs that not many people are caring about the human rights, freedom of speech, or fair elections. So, these points are the difference between Erdoğan and Imamoglu.
You mean that in the end of the 90s, what was Turkey or Turkey was not important in the geopolitics, but now there is importance in the Middle East within Erdogan and the country, and there are upper situations that consider not having problems with Erdogan, with the idea of clashes with Iran or clashes with Russia or anything in commercial issues that there were not important in the 90s.
Basically, yes. I mean, we forget one point actually, which is migration, irregular migration. Turkey is now playing a role of blocking migrants to Europe, and Turkey is getting paid for this. And Europeans are not going to be happy once this dam collapses, and they have feared that migrants will rush into European Union, which is legit concern actually. So that's one of the reasons that Europeans are not too much into human rights or freedom of speech or fair election right now. And the points you listed are also legit. Clashing Russia, the things happening in Middle East, Iran and Israel, again migration and other things makes Europeans and the Americans, basically Western power, the Western ally of Turkey, to ignore what's happening in Turkey right now. To say Turkey is not important as 90s, in 90s, Turkey was less popular or less important. Could be, but also we have to remember that in 90s Turkey was kind of in civil war with Kurds. It was the toughest era of the clash between Kurdish militias, PKK, and Turkey. And 90s were also was an era that people were suing Turkey in European Human Rights Court, and Turkey has been charged many of a decision that not in favor of Turkey. We don't see such things right now, and indeed we are hearing some critics against Turkey about what's happening in Istanbul. But actually, these things are not strong as in the past.
It's an interesting issue that what happens in Istanbul is reliable with the idea of all Turkey. It's interesting focusing in Ankara or Istanbul, Izmir, the area about the Kurds in the close area to Iraq, the territoriality of the country may be interesting about if there is not only one country instead of various.
Yeah, many people also think this protest, today's protests in Turkey are similar to Gezi protests, which took place approximately 10 years ago, a little bit more than 10 years ago, like early 2022, which has started in Istanbul again, in Taksim Square, the famous square, for destroying a park, small park. Even right now, staying in the Taksim Square. This protest got nationwide in almost every province. We have seen protests against the government and against Erdogan. Today's protests are similar to that. Youth are leading. There is no single leader, but the youth are leading this protest, like Gezi protests. Once I saw a video, like a debate about protests in Istanbul and İmamoğlu on YouTube, like a couple of days ago. One analyst was expressed a good point. She said, in Gezi protests, Turkey's economy was not bad as today, and Erdogan was kind of powerful, so this is why he crashed the Gezi protest. But today the economy is bad, and he doesn't have that popularity. He is losing popularity. Even elections are barely in favor of Erdogan, which looks and sounds to be a good point, but there's something the analyst is missing, which is support from Middle Eastern fellows. Yes, Turkey's economy is not in the best state, and Turkey is having hard times in economic and diplomatic wise. But that's another reason that people are angry. Actually, many people are boycotting the product or companies that they think they are pro-Erdogan. They don't buy their products basically, and it seems surprisingly to be very well organized. But that doesn't mean that Erdogan is losing power, or he will lie down from the office easily. Despite the bad economy, despite the economic crisis, we know that Turkey is receiving money from Qatar, which is the best ally in the Middle East right now, and the sanctions are not strong like 90s again. So even though the economy is bad, it seems like Erdogan will survive from this protest. And there's another point that the Kurds are not supporting the opposition, unlike the before protests. Kurds especially feeling that they shouldn't take this protest. They shouldn't take any side between opposition and Erdogan. They already had experience, which was not in favor of Kurds. And despite the Kurdish party leader asked his fellows to take place the protest, not many people entered participated CHP, the main opposition party's protest in Istanbul, which was approximately more than 2 million according to the CHP leader. But more realistically, it was like half of this, but still a huge number of people. But not many people, not many Kurdish politicians or Kurdish figures took place in this protest, which is interesting to see. Another reason that Kurds are not participating in the protest is the protests are somehow leading by far right party fellows. It's quite easy, quite popular to see some signs and papers against Kurds, and which we don't understand why, because the protests are supposed to be contra Erdogan, not contra Kurds, but somehow they are also expressing their anti-Kurdish ideas and anti-Kurdish expressions.
It's important, because, as you said, there will be no energy from outside powers for change in the country, and that means that the energy for change will be inside. So they may say there are two parties, the Erdogan side and the, as we could say, the Imamoglu side. What happens, there is a third part. The third part may be the Kurds. So what the Kurds could think and say and express would be important, but if there is clash within the opposition and the Kurds, because that candidate on the last rally for presidency could be not implied in the persecution, but not implied in the support against that persecution politically for the illegalization of the party supporting the Kurds and the protection of the elected members of the parliament, and that important things what supplies the arguments of a democracy. And so maybe that idea be important of pulling that idea of the sectors of the country and the possibilities inside of change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to analyze what's happening today, we have to look at what happened in the past. Erdogan can be criticized by many people, but we have to give credit how good politician he is. He successfully divided opposition, Turkey's opposition. Remember, almost 10 years ago, the Kurdish leader, the biggest rival of Erdogan, has been jailed, and still he is in jail without any court decision. And then CHP's leader was supporting Erdogan, and he was like, I will translate what he said literally. He said, even the decision is against constitution, we will say yes to jail the Kurdish party leader. This is how he was jailed and still in the jail. And the thing starts since then, actually. He also jailed the ultra-nationalist party leader, Professor Ümit Özdağ, who is not very popular, and I will say he's totally extremist. He's kind of Le Pen of Turkey, and he's in jail as well. And then İmamoğlu, and then the mayor of small mayors of Istanbul, like district mayors of Istanbul, has been jailed. And then it came to Mr. İmamoğlu. So it didn't start with İmamoğlu, but things like Mr. President Erdogan says, his biggest target and then he was in the jail. And people are now concerning that there will be a trustee to be appointed in the office of CHP, the main opposition party. Like literally, inter-election of the party will be cancelled, and the president of the party will be removed from office, and there will be like governor, trustee will be appointed to the party. And again, this is what happened to Kurdish mayors in recent local elections. In recent 3 local elections, Kurdish mayors won and get in the power has been removed by decision of the government without election. And then Kurds are now blaming CHP, that CHP were silent while these things happened to Kurds, and right now the same things are happening to CHP, but we are not going to take place. We are not going to support them like they didn't support us. So that's how CHP is losing ground. Despite they don't receive support from Kurds, I would admit that CHP is still standing strong, but the question is how long. People will get tired of the protest and demonstration, and they have been taking streets since almost 3 weeks, and İmamoğlu is still in the jail. I mean, they are protesting. They're like funny stage, like famous Pikachu and the superhero things are being staged in the protest. These things are nice. It's taking sympathy of people, but indeed there is no outcome. There is no result. So seems like they will take streets a couple of weeks more, then they will forget what happened. And Turkey is a quite dynamic country, not only domestic but international in wise of international affairs as well. What's happening in Syria right now? What's happening about Iran? Like say potential things will happen to Iran, relationship with Israel, with Greece. This kind of things will easily change public view and public dynamics in Turkey easily. So I predict that issue of İmamoğlu will be forgotten in coming weeks, and the protests will not longer take street. Maybe a few and small group, but it won't be as strong as today.
Well, but for the moment, it can be interesting the view over the jail for İmamoğlu in the idea of the first church was by terrorism, and then changed for corruption. What I may add before you tell the idea of this change of content of the accusation, because in the last quarter of century in the country there were 2 major earthquakes, and we saw clearly that the old buildings from Roman Empire times and so on were up, and recent buildings were down, and there were for sure corruption. So accusation, corruption for Mr. İmamoğlu in that country may be insane.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Like, I mean, huge earthquake took place in Turkey, and thousands or hundreds of thousands of people died under collapse rubbles of the building, and people were expecting that government of Turkey will be criticized a lot, and perhaps the president will lose more popularity, and there will be an election right after the earthquakes, and Erdoğan will be removed from the office by the elections. But it didn't happen. Despite that huge lose in the earthquakes and mistake of the government, he's still in the power. He's still in the office. It will be unrealistic to expect that protests will have opposition to get Erdoğan step down from the office. And about İmamoğlu, we have to remember that first the process starts with his diploma first. His diploma has been cancelled. Now, officially, he is not a university graduate individual anymore. He doesn't have a university diploma, so that means legally, according to Turkish law, he cannot be candidate for next elections, presidential election in coming years. Again, the same example of the Kurdish leader Selahattin Demirtas, who is in the jail. While he was in the jail, he was nominated as presidential candidate in the elections, which he didn't win, but it was legal to run for him for presidential election. But this is not the case for Imamoglu. For sure, the CHP leader, CHP party, is thinking a strategic move that they will nominate Mr. Imamoglu as presidential candidate while he is in the jail. But there's a big obstacle, which is diploma. Right after he was in the jail, CHP hold elections, internal elections, to decide who will be his its presidential election in the coming years, and Imamoglu was only candidate in this election. So basically, he won, and officially he is candidate of CHP for next elections. But again, the diploma issue is not solved yet, and we don't know if main election board, High Election Board of Turkey, will let him to run as candidate. That is the things that we people, the society, didn't start discussing about yet. I mean, even he will be released, even he is released from the prison. Right now, he is not capable to run as candidate. And you have good point that first he accused of terrorism. He was charged of the terrorism and the corruption. Right after right after jailing, he was released of accusation of terrorism. Now he is not charged of the terrorist accusations, but officially he is in the jail for corruption.
It's an interesting issue. I may ask a small thing. Erdogan has children.
Yeah.
Yes, with his wife.
Yeah.
Okay. Killing the title as they can came and say, oh, Oscar title in school is not legal anymore. Okay, it's like they put a law saying Erdogan's wife is a virgin again by law.
Well, I'm not sure I get the question, but if you are talking about his diploma, because there are discussions about diploma of Erdogan, it was for long years. It was a main claim of opposition party that Erdogan doesn't have university diploma, so he's not capable to run candidacy for elections. But he ran and he won the elections, and he's basically in the office right now.
I mean that going that to the past for redrawing the idea about I say virginity for a woman, but the title of any person it's 1984.
A title of like presidential title?
Any title got with effort in any school, any university, it's curious because there was a president that is in office now in Brazil, that is Lula, was a metallurgic employee, no title, no university, but he is the president. So it's curious the need of a title for being candidate for presidency. And for sure there is an interesting story that what happened in the past for putting that idea on the Turkish law.
Perhaps the constitution will be changed, and perhaps Erdogan will try to change constitution, and perhaps he will do his best to change the constitution in his favor, to stay in power, to stay in office. for longer time, perhaps until his last until his death, let's say, basically following the path of Putin. And who knows, like Putin did. Putin was prime minister first, then he became president, and then prime minister again. He's changing the rules and constitution as he wants. We may see these things in Turkey as well, as long as it will help Erdoğan to stay in office. These things are possible. Regarding the title, you need university degree to run as member of parliament and as candidate in Turkey. But to be a mayor, you don't need a university diploma. So far, that means İmamoğlu can run as candidate for the local elections as mayor. And there's another thing that people were expecting. There will be a trustee, appointed trustee to Istanbul's mayor, like happened in the other district mayors and the Kurdish mayors in the east. But this didn't happen. Instead, they charged İmamoğlu in accusation of the corruption, which allowed them to remove him from the mayor's office, and which happened. İmamoğlu is not mayor of Istanbul anymore, and Parliament of Istanbul municipality has elected another individual, another politician who is from CHP again, because Parliament of Istanbul municipality is majority of CHP members. So they re-elected another individual as mayor. So now there is a new mayor of Istanbul in charge, while İmamoğlu is in the jail.
It's interesting the idea of that accusation of terrorism, because the idea of collusion of interest within the local elections with the Kurds, and the idea that in the state of Spain some people polarized the idea of from some views from the state of Spain saying all Basques are ETA, and some in Turkey saying all the Kurds are with PKK. All are Abdullah Öcalan, for saying the spreading of the accusation, global accusation for all the people, for all the persons, and the idea of the inner view inside, but also that idea of dissolution, because what's said by Abdullah Öcalan from jail, curiously from jail, but he's a quarter of century inside jail, and I think it was 1998, 1999, he was get in Khartoum. I think it was in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, with the help of Israel. It's curious because a quarter of century later, apparently the country is not a friend of Israel anymore.
No, he's not. Apparently it's not. What's happening in Syria right now, Turkey is willing to establish a military base in Syria. Actually, not one, but more than one. The biggest one is Palmyra province, which is basically in central Syria, and one in Hama province, one in the Damascus, the capital.
Palmyra is just southern of Rojava.
Yes, it's strategic and kind of you can say like central Syria or from angle. So this military base have been bombed by Israel and being bombed by Israel again and again. So perhaps Israel is not very happy that Turkey is trying to establish military base in Syria, which is not in favor of Turkey for sure. Because we had a conversation about Syria, and unfortunately my prediction came true that I told you there will be more clash even after Assad. I am not expecting a peace, which is happening right now in Syria, and it's affecting Turkey's domestic affairs directly. Turkey was hoping to have more paid and land in Syria, as a strong Syrian government that's supported by Turkey, and kind of proxy power of Turkey in Middle East. But so far it didn't happen, and the connection to the Turkish domestic affairs and İmamoğlu is that, like I say, Erdogan is a great strategist and great politician, and he is playing his cards very wisely. Before the things started with İmamoğlu, many people will remember that the things kind of peace process started with Kurds, and lawyer and the Kurdish party leaders are allowed to meet Kurdish leader Mr. Abdullah Öcalan in the jail, and during Nowruz they read his message to Kurds and the PKK, the military group fighting against Turkey. So basically he asked PKK to lay down the arms, make peace with Turkey, and not using violence anymore, which was surprisingly welcomed by PKK leaders, and they said, yes, we will listen our leaders, but first we need our leader to join us in the Congress, the coming Congress, because without Congress we cannot lay down the arms, we cannot decide, we cannot make a decision, basically. So the thing started like in this way. First, Erdogan is smart enough to not fight against two enemies at the same time. So first, he made kind of peace with Kurds, and then he attacked CHP. Like I say, he is smart enough to divide the opposition. First he got support from the CHP to jail Kurdish leaders like Selahattin Demirtas, and now he is getting, I wouldn't say Kurdish support, but he made peace with Kurds, then attacking CHP and jailing most popular figure of CHP party like İmamoğlu and other mayors of Istanbul. So these things are connected to international affairs as well. Like I say, what's happening in Syria are connected to Kurds. Kurds are very sensitive about Syrian Kurds, and making peace deal inside of Turkey and inside of Syria will make Kurds stay silent against what's happening in Istanbul right now. Like earlier, I said that Kurds are not very willing to participate anti-Erdogan protests because they are tired of the demonstrations against Erdogan. Once they were demonstrating and once they were taking the street against the government, CHP supporters and CHP party itself were not supporting Kurds, and Kurds are like, why would we support them then? Because Kurdish mayors were jailed, and they were removed from the office by the government decision without elections. They didn't see CHP support. They protest. They got the street. They were taking the street, but CHP were silent. Not only CHP, but let's say the rest of the opposition as well. And right now, the same things happening to CHP, but this time Kurds are silent. And Kurds have legit reasons. Like I said, CHP were silent, and now Turkey is having a good relationship with Kurds. Remember, last week was Nowruz, the Kurdish New Year, and it was the protests, pro İmamoğlu protests were taking place in almost all over the country, except the eastern part of Turkey, where Kurdish population are the majority, and some part of Istanbul. Government basically banned all the demonstrations and meetings, public meetings outside, except Nowruz celebrations, which made CHP supporters quite angry, and perhaps that is how the anti-Kurdish discourse involved anti-Erdogan protests. CHP was basically, we are the founder of the Republic of Turkey, but we are not allowed to demonstrate, while Kurds are freely celebrating their Nowruz. So they were kind of angry about this decision. But that's a good and strategic move of Erdogan to divide to get the gap between CHP and Kurds wider and wider.
It's important because Kurd peace is not only an inner peace, because that important issue is within the Kurds in Iran, the Kurds in Iraq, and the Kurds in Syria. It's a very interesting issue because, as we can remember, 1946 in Iran, Stalin got two separate entities within the state of Iran, not going to 1941, the idea of the British and the Soviets getting the country in a coupled state. Not in 1946, they got in the upper side of Iran one Azeri country, little country, and one Kurd country, separating, with the idea of integrating it into the Soviet Union. It's curious because it was what happened 3 years ago within Donbass, Donetsk and Luhansk. So when Putin got that idea, it was not new. It was old past idea. But if in one moment you can see the opportunity of saying some about the Kurds in Iran or in Iraq, Erbil, Suleimania, and Kirkuk, and what happened with the referendum, and because the idea of getting one entity in Iraq or maybe Rojava in Syria, it's interesting because it can be a guide for the Kurds in Turkey for getting more power or getting more alliance with these Kurds outside Turkey, and that's a problem with that idea, a problem for Erdogan. Maybe another leader would be an opportunity for get soft power with those countries, as Erbakan tried to get that idea of Central Asia with the Turkish people there. So maybe another leader could be in focusing, we have Kurds in Turkey, we have Kurds in Syria, in Iran and Iraq. It may be an opportunity of geopolitics, but it's an earlier conceptation about hate earlier than love. It might be not the best form of say, but it can go on that idea.
Well, you have a point. Actually, you're right. I don't know if uniting of Kurds will harm Erdogan or not, but I'm sure that once Kurds are united, that will be in favor of Kurds for sure. And indeed, we are seeing some attempts of Kurdish parties in Iraq and Syria, and perhaps Turkish Kurds are involved as well to get united in Syria, like. The Kurdish party ENKS, which is supported by the Iraqi Kurds leader Barzani in Syria, now moving together with Rojava administration after long separation between them. This party, pro-Barzani party, was in Syrian government. Then they were let's say, were not favored Kurds anymore in Syrian government. So now they are moving with Rojava. So Kurds are getting united in Middle East, not only in Syria and Iraq as well, but also in Iran and Turkey. So, like I said, I don't know if it's bad news for Erdogan, but it's good news for Kurds for sure in the future. And that's one of the reasons that Kurds are getting united, and we are seeing anti-Kurdish discourse in pro-Imamoğlu protests, and that makes Kurds in Turkey more united. So that makes Kurds getting antipathy for the protests. So that is for sure in favor of Erdogan. I mean, even they are united they could be somehow in favor of Erdogan as well, because more Kurds are united, more they don't need CHP or other Turkish opposition parties, which means they will less participate in anti-Erdogan protests, and which should be good for Erdogan as well. Involving other Kurds in other countries will of course affect Turkey's affairs. Like I said, let's back to Syrian affairs right now. What's happening in Syria right now? Turkey is in armed wrestling with Israel. Israel is bombing Turkish air bases, potential air bases, let's say. But Turkey didn't give up yet. They want to establish military base like they did in Libya. Perhaps they are trying to convince Israel and U.S. that these military bases will be against Iran. That's why they are moving air defense systems, which will be not powerful enough against Israel's F-36s. But yet Israel seems to be not convinced that these military bases will be only against Iran, but also will be against Israel as well. And Israel is using their Kurdish card. In each statement of Foreign Minister of Israel, you can hear Kurdish or Durzi minorities in Syria, which is harming Turkey a lot. And Turkey doesn't want Israel to use this card. Thus, Turkey is willing to establish a peace, like immediate peace with Kurds as soon as possible. And it seems like Kurds are using this opportunity very well. While they are growing their relationship with Israel and rest of the Western countries, they also benefiting from the willing of Turkey's peace process in Syria and Iraq as well, and perhaps in Syria some lost Kurdish land will be back to Kurdish administration somehow, like some part of Aleppo has been handed over to Kurdish administration in Syria by an agreement between the government and in the mentorship of Turkey. And like I said, more they are getting united, more Turkey's Kurds will be separated from Turkish opposition, and they will be united more. And perhaps we will see the almost same scenario in Iran as well, since the military actions are rising against Iran. Iranian Kurds will seek establish an administration like in Iraq and Syria. I mean, these things are good examples for them. They will do their best for sure. Actually, we are already seeing some signs that Iranian Kurds are trying to get united against possible. They are taking their position inside of possible American military attack to Iran.
It's interesting that point. I will say three things about Syria, but first of all, the idea of Iran, it's important because a part of the idea of succession of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, it's the idea of looking west for the opposition of the regime, but they don't, I don't need you and me, because the majestic view, the idea of not looking east, because Iran has many problems, not only with ISIS-K, Khorasan, and the idea of clashes with Pakistan, and the clashes with Afghanistan, and the idea of the water, and that dams about what in the 90s was not viewed, because people of the world withdraw of Afghanistan in all cases, because in the 80s was a war within the Soviets, but in the 90s no problem, and that came the emirate. And in the 50s the United States got that dams in Afghanistan, and there is problems within these three countries in the east. And the idea of giving away from the capital, not putting Tehran instead, one city that is on that point just beside the border of Pakistan. It is very curious of the future of Iran, apart of the possible attack of Israel that who happens, who know when happens.
Yeah, many analysts are predicting that there will be strikes against Iran. But we have to remember that Iran is quite strong, despite they lost power in Middle East after 7th October. For sure, they lost their proxies in Lebanon, in Syria, and they are about to lose their powers in Iraq, their proxies in Iraq. And perhaps yesterday they withdrew from Yemen as well. According to open sources, Iranian officials ordered its proxies and soldiers to withdraw from Yemen after strong airstrike of the US and the UK. So Iran, for sure, is not at the peak of its power, and the regime of Iran is just focusing to defend itself against possible strikes. And these possible strikes perhaps will come true, and perhaps we will see some military actions against Iran. It will not be end of Iran immediately, because Iranian regime is still strong in economic and military wise. But for sure, Iranian regime will lose significant amount his power, not only in Middle East, but also in Western Asia and in domestic affairs. And that for sure Kurds will play a significant role once things start in Iran, like it happened in Syria and Iraq. Like these two countries, in Iran, Kurds are the biggest minority group. And indeed, during the ruse, we saw some clash, some tension between Iranian Azeris, Azerbaijani community and Kurdish community in Urmia province, which is claimed by the Azeri population to be a Turkic city. And on the other hand, it is claimed by Kurds to be a Kurdish majority, which is Kurdish majority according to open sources and according to officials. But the city is a subject of discuss between Azeri and Kurdish communities. So we are seeing that kind of science, that kind of small, I would say, science in Iran, that Iranian domestic affairs are also boiling. Something is brewing in Iran as well. And possible military action against Iran will be just a starter for this kind of tensions to get higher and bigger. And if we come back to Turkey again, these things will of course affect Turkish Kurds and Turkish domestic affairs as well, because Turkey has a big portion of weakening of Iranian regime in Middle East, like in December 2024. When Assad regime collapsed, Turkey played a significant and pivotal role, which was against Iran more than to be against Israel, unlike discourse of Turkey and what Turkey is trying to establish right now. I mean, Turkish government is try to establish military bases in Syria. But remember, a couple of months ago, these military bases were belonging to Russian and Iranian regime, which was quite unfriendly to Israel. And once Turkey helped Assad regime collapse and Iran leave to Syria, actually he indirectly helped Israel to get power in Syria. And to establish military base against Israel right now in Israel seems to be unrealistic. So that unrealistic dilemma will help Kurds or will lead Turkish government to make peace with the Kurds and will affect or maybe even having peace with opposition parties as well in Turkey, because you cannot have big domestic problems while you want to be a leader in the Middle East and international affairs. So perhaps these things will lead the Turkish government to kind of deal or ease the tension in domestic affairs.
There are some things that repeat in history, because in France, the ruling reign, the king, was in favor in translating the court from the center of Paris, the Palais de Tuileries, to Versailles, outside the city of Paris. The idea of translating the capital from Tehran is quite the same, because the protests that were in 2011 and recently was within the protesters and the headquarters of the institutions in the center of Tehran. So, with the withdrawing of the powers to another city far, far away, it may be the same idea of the French kings within the idea of separating from the center of the city. And the idea of there is a core within Iran, Persian core, but there is a belt outside that in the state of mind of the leaders, there is a problem again that way of problem, because there is from the southern southwestern there are Arabs within the Shuttle Arab zone that was again a problem in the 80s within the war Iraq-Iran, and surrounding that belt we can pass and with the Kurds, the Azeri, and terminating with the Baluchis in the other side. So that state of mind can be problematic with the idea of clashes, not only side with the international view.
Yeah. Well, talking about France, what happened to Le Pen is quite interesting and quite funny, actually. Many Turkish social media users are using that. They're like, her diploma has been her political rights have been taken back by the court decision. And Turkish social media users are like, so next Le Pen's diploma will be cancelled. So this is how it should be, because they are learning from the Turkish government. Joking aside, I feel like Turkey is somehow inspiring its neighbors and its allies in Europe and Middle East. So jailing the main opposition leaders and cancelling their diplomas and creating more obstacle for the opposition leaders in Turkey are mostly subject of the pro-human rights and pro-secular politicians. While in Europe it's other way around. They are mostly jailing the right-wing, far-right opposition figures. That's quite interesting. We may see some,
in the case of France, there is another guy, Bartela, is part of the family, and he ran for prime minister. So if it is not Marine Le Pen, it will be Bartela with probably the similar results. But going to Syria, what I was going to say about those three things, the idea of ETS, the formerly known about al-Hulani, it was the idea about from Idlib was pro-Turkish forces, and now it appears that the formerly known as al-Hulani is not within the Turkey, within Erdogan, so it's a kind of independence of that idea. In the North Idlib, in the Afrin side, there was some kind of classes with Rojava forces. On the other side, on second, we could see the idea of the Druzi people, the Kurds, playing from Israel, and taking Mount Hermon on both sides, buffer zone, and with the problem because there is a corridor within Damascus and the Jordan border separating Israel from the Druzi people. So that is an important problem because it is not a continuity in territory. So if it can be difficult for playing that card, Druzi from Israel, playing Kurd card, because there is a gap, bigger gap to separate Israel to the Kurds physically. And on the third idea, the air bases problem, it may be an idea of making a air corridor for getting free bombing Iran, as they did in Iraq in 1981, or therefore nuclear settlement in 2007.
Yeah, you know what's happening in Syria right now between Turkey and Syrian government or administration is quite similar to relationship between Tunisia and Turkey. I remember Tunisian elections. The Muslim Brotherhood Party, al-Nahda, got good turnout, good support from the population, and still it's one of the most popular political party in Tunisia, and its leader Ghannouchi. Right after the election, Ghannouchi has been invited to Turkey, and he was hosted in Ankara by Mr. Erdogan, which means Turkey immediately, let's say Erdogan immediately shown his willing to intervene Tunisia's domestic affairs with hit back Turkish policies. Basically, what I want to say is Turkey tried to get immediate action in Tunisia right after the elections. Turkey was hoping that supporting al-Nahda and the Muslim Brotherhood in Tunisia will help Turkey to get more power and authority in the country, but actually this hit back by the president Kais Saied. al-Nahda leader has been jailed, and al-Nahda got weakening by the government. So what's happening in Syria right now is, in my opinion, is quite similar to what happened in Tunisia as well. Right after collapse of Assad regime, Turkey took immediate step to establish military bases, growing relationship with the Jolani administration, supporting them. You know, the migration issue, like economic deal agreements with Syria. Turkey showed immediately his willing to be the main power in Syria, which maybe was not wise move. Because Israel didn't like this, and as we know, Israel, like Turkey, took a significant role to get Assad regime collapse. So Turkey is not alone in Syria, and Turkey is playing so big. And of course, this kind of things will take attention of Israel. Israel will not be easily convinced to let Turkey establish military bases. So, in a nutshell, what I am trying to say is that actually Turkey's policies in Syria is not helping either Jolani regime or administration, or however you call it, or itself in Middle East. This kind of things, this kind of sharp policies in Middle East are not seen to be helpful for Turkey, neither in Egypt or Syria or Tunisia. I mean, there are examples. So being very active and sharp and very immediate in global affairs sometimes or most of times are hitting back Turkey.
It's its idea of the classes within Egypt, in Libya, that were close to get real war with the vessels of Turkey in the countryside, and al-Assad getting back that possibility of retaliation with the cover of the vessels from Turkey, making like an air dome to the one side of the civil war within Libya, and that was a very interesting issue because in the southern way we can see Egypt with the dam in Ethiopia and the Nile River getting probably Aswan dam, and I can qualify but the idea for sure is over there because the importance of Aswan dam is lower than without the Ethiopian dam. And down the Red Sea, we can see the outside point of Erdogan with a projected port in the side of Sudan, and almost getting Mogadishu and trying to get power for the navy of Turkey and a port with the Indic Ocean. So the projection of Turkey on that view down the Red Sea, it's a part of the projection outside of Turkey. With the problems within Egypt and Ethiopia, Somaliland, Somalia, Puntland, and that there is also problems with Al-Shabaab, but it's that world.
Well, talking about Turkey's foreign affairs in Africa and Middle East, there are some wins and lose at the same time. Libya is one of the most successful policies of Turkey. They established military bases in Libya, which is nightmare for Egypt. You know, Egypt is the regional power, but not able to win in the Libyan civil war. Unlike Egypt, even despite the far distance, Turkey got more power and more authority in Libya. Again, which is a nightmare for Egyptian government, and perhaps Israel is taking lesson from Libya or other Turkey's policies in other parts of the world and the region. So perhaps they will not allow Turkey to establish military base in Syria, and so far what we are seeing is that Israelis are sharply against that idea, and they are doing best to not let Turkey to establish military bases. And what's happening in Sudan is a win for Turkey. In Sudan, Israel and UAE backed powers lost against the central government, which was backed by the Turkey. and that's a win for Turkey, of course. Like I say, there are some wins and lose for Turkey. These things will affect in the domestic affairs. Coming back to our main subject, the first subject, it will help. It will affect on Turkish domestic affairs in bad or negative or positive ways. And again, Turkish society and Turkish social dynamics are quite energetic and dynamic. It's easy to be changed. Any development in region, inter-region, and international affairs could change the public view against certain things in Turkey. So perhaps this international affairs issues will be will get popularity in Turkish domestic affairs, and people easily will forget what the protests and İmamoğlu and Istanbul or elections or other things, unless opposition party in Turkey is successfully convince Erdoğan to hold snap elections, which is not possible, but opposition party is trying its best.
Yes, because as we can see, Iran is plenty of oil, and in those decades they have given that gift to make proxies in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Gaza and West Bank, in those ideas of clashing the satanic Israel. The idea of getting in those problems from Turkey, that I think they don't have the oil Iran has, not that resources to give money, as it was a rich and wealthy Gulf Coast monarchy. It is not Turkey now. Getting in that idea of what is, I can see, Somalia. It's not a country. Myanmar is not a country. Somalia is not a country. Sudan, mainly, we can see it's not real country because there is a civil war. Libya is not a country because there is still a civil war. Open conflicts in those states within Libya, Sudan, Somalia. It may be a problem within Turkey because those resources can be drilled from having a wealthy state of wellness in Turkey for the people. Those resources go outside, and with the economic problem, with the central bank, in the tariffs, and many things about the price of things, it can be an outside problem for Erdogan.
Yeah. Well, like you say, having a big army and being regional power is costly. It's not piece of cake and it's not cheap. Like you say, Iran has spent a lot of money to get proxies and get regional wars, fighting against Israel and the US. It was quite costly for Iran as well, and in the end, they lost actually. Iran is not as powerful as last year or a couple of years ago. So, like you say, Turkish economy is not doing well, and right after İmamoğlu decision, Turkish lira collapsed again, and the foreign currency, were rising like rocket. While Turkish economy is not doing well, perhaps Erdogan is relying on Middle East fellows funding, which is Qatar funding, but we don't know how long it will be helpful for him, and how long Qatar can fund Turkey. Of course, the relationship between two nations are quite strong, and not only in the diplomatic level but also personal level, because Erdogan is a leader that leader who loves establishing personal connection, personal relationship with the other leaders, with Putin, Trump, or Sheikh of Qatar. So far, it's helpful for him, but the question is how long it will be staying like that. War of Ukraine already almost collapsed economy of world's economy, and Turkey badly affected. Inflation rate increased in all over the world, while it increased in Turkey like 10 times more than the rest of the world. And inflation is still the biggest problem in Turkey. That will affect in Turkish domestic affairs for sure, but we don't know how. It can be either way. It can be either way. Either it will help Erdogan to ease the protest, or it will protesters to get sharper. It totally depends on how opposition party will play its cards. Remember, opposition party leadership has been changed recently, like a couple of years ago. The previous administration of the opposition party were not quite really active or taking advantage of the economic crisis. Remember, 2 years ago, Turkish economy was it's all the worst stage, and Erdogan were being blamed of almost every of the economic crisis and inflation. But despite these facts, opposition couldn't win the elections, and they lost. And right after losing elections, leadership opposition party changed. The new administration is seems to following new path, using economic and other affairs in a hybrid way. For example, the previous administration were not willing to seen aside the Kurdish political parties, while the new administration has no problem to be seen aside Kurdish politicians, and they constantly trying to get support from the Kurds. But like I explained earlier, it's not easy anymore, since Kurds are upset about what happened in the previous years. So, yeah, this kind of economic things theoretically seems to be unhelpful for Erdogan. But remember, Erdogan has survived a couple of years ago in the worst economic situations in the elections. So it is still early to analyze that this kind of economic crisis will let Erdogan step down from the office, or it will be harmful for him. It could be either way. It could be contrary. It could be very helpful for Erdogan as well. When the people are poor, they might not be very interested in mayor of Istanbul or jailing him or elections or other stuffs. They will be more focused on their business and their daily routine, which will be helpful to ease popularity of anti-Erdogan protests.
That remains three issues. One is the canal, the secondary canal, artificial in Istanbul, or at least in the countryside of Istanbul, in the European side, that changed the play, and it cost money, much money, in making that canal. The second idea is Crimea, and probably not because there is interested in supporting Ukraine because it's right, and Zelensky is my best friend. It could be, say, Erdogan. No, the fall of the 18th century, Ottoman Empire controlled that area within Crimea, and it's important in geopolitics against Russia, saying the control of Black Sea, and the idea of the tariffs, Trump tariffs, how can it affect the country?
Well, if you're talking about the Canal of Istanbul, people are seeing the news that the canal is under structure, while the things are happening in Istanbul, the protests and other things in international affairs. Erdogan seems to not give up about his idea, his dream of creating the canal of Istanbul, which called by himself as crazy project or math project. Yeah, it seems like he didn't give up about this project, and the project is under construction. They already began constructing the like, I don't know this technical terms, but they already start digging some lands to make the canal visible. Well, Mayor of Istanbul is one of the person who is against that project, and it is not fair to say that's one of the reasons he was in the jail. He was jailed, but for sure, jailing Imamoglu and weakening opposition parties' power in Istanbul will help Erdogan to create this canal, which I don't understand it will be helpful for economy of Turkey or like geopolitics of Turkey. But yeah, it's under construction. He hopes to get popularity from this kind of project. Actually, remember how the name of the country has been changed from Turkey to Turkey. It was quite a big populism attempt and propaganda issue. We changed our name because it was name of birth. Now everybody is calling us Turkey, which is the original name. But indeed, people didn't care about that. Most of the country doesn't even know how their country is called in English language, and they don't even care. They only care about their economic situation and what's happening to their country. This kind of things are. He hopes that this kind of things will help him to gain popularity, but actually, so far it didn't help. I will say jailing opposition leaders are helping more than this kind of populist attempt.
And what about Crimea and the tariffs within Trump? The idea of saying integrity of Ukraine, including Crimea, must be restored to the people of Ukraine, and on the other side, the idea of the tariffs that will there are experts saying it's a type of need of negotiation within Trump and the United States, but it's what is in the mind of Trump is not able to be known, because who knows what he's thinking really.
Well, remember, 2 days ago, Trump announced a tariff to other countries. But if you notice, we didn't see name of one of the country we were expecting, which is Russia. No one see Russia tariff on Russia. I mean, Trump is surprisingly playing very pro-Russian, and while he applies tariffs and taxes, additional taxes to European Union, Canada, and other countries, we didn't see any additional tax or tariff to Russia. So it's also interesting to see how things will be evolving between Trump and Russia and Putin and Crimea. We know that not United States, but Trump wants to put an end to war in Ukraine. On the other hand, we are seeing the war is getting growing. Actually, the tension is getting higher, despite what we are hearing from Trump. Germany is announcing to be armed, and in the Asia, China is attempting to take Taiwan, and the agreements between three nations in Eastern Asia like Japan, Korea, and China. On other hand, more military deployment from Russia to Ukrainian front. So there are two things: what we are hearing from Trump, what we are seeing happening on the battleground. Trump seems to be very willing to finish the war. He even fights with the other presidents in front of the journalists. But on the other hand, what we are seeing, what we are hearing from the open sources, that the tension is growing actually, and the nations in Europe and Russia and the US actually trying to produce more military power, which is ununderstandable for many analysts and myself included.
So it will not be affecting Turkey, the tariffs of Trump. It's curious because I think I have read Erdogan saying this year to retake the integration of Turkey in the European Union. What is, as I can say, with the Trump administration, not only Ukraine, Canada will be earlier in the European Union than Turkey.
But remember, it was yesterday, I guess, European Union cancelled all meeting with Turkey. 2 weeks ago, people were very surprised and very hopeful that Turkey is engaging with the European Union again, and they start talking about membership of Turkey in the European Union, which I believe it's nothing but a dream. There are good relationship between Turkey and European Union right after discussions of the European Army began. But personally, I don't believe that European Army idea will come true anytime soon, because Europe is too far away to be a military power, while Russia, China, and US increasing. Of course, Turkey will be willing to take part in possible European army, like Turkey played a significant role in during Cold War against Soviet Union as part of Western power and member of NATO. And Turkey hopes to play a similar role in possible European army. And indeed, to be realistic, if there will be a European army, Turkey will be one of the strongest strongest actor in this army, and for sure Europeans will be needing Turkey a lot. But like I say, to see a European army anytime soon seems to be not possible. So that means we will not see Turkey in European army. Talking about the effect of Ukraine on Turkey, I will say Turkey is too busy to be affected by the Ukrainian. Of course, it's being affected. In the beginning of the war, Turkey was playing role between Russia and Ukraine, having meetings, bringing two sides together in Istanbul and Antalya, like establishing diplomatic ways. But right now, Turkey is not too much into Ukrainian war. Even famous Turkish drones are not popular in the war anymore. I'm sure Ukraine still has a couple of Turkish drones, but we are not hearing their names anymore on the open sources or journalistic articles. So Turkey will be affected for sure, but again, compared to other dynamics in Middle East and domestic things, Turkey will be less affected, or Turkey will be too busy to be affected by the Ukraine.
Good. So I think there has been a view of the problems inside and outside, but if you think there is remaining anything you could be wanting of expressing, it's the moment.
Come again?
If you think there is anything or not expressed about any issue remaining or any problem, person to be told that was not told before in this conversation, in this talk.
Actually, to talk about Ukraine is helpful, and to talk about Middle East and the domestic affairs is the main topics should be talked about Turkey. But I have a prediction. I guess even in the previous talk, I mentioned that Cyprus is very important, and the things are brewing in Cyprus. So I would say Cyprus. We should put our eyes on Cyprus and what's happening in Cyprus right now. A couple of days ago, where an organization against Turkey has been established, they announced of their establishment. In their statement, they said we will use violence against Turkish occupation in the island, Cyprus island. And on the other hand, in the Turkish part of Cyprus, or like some of my fellows would prefer to mention, Turkish occupied Cyprus, northern Cyprus, the Turkish administration didn't let small girls wearing Islamic hair cover, to enter the school, which reminds 90s of Turkey and era of Erdoğan. Erdoğan has been jailed of being advocacy of right of Islamic outfit of women. It's one of its his biggest goal. And what's happening in Cyprus is interesting, but we still don't know whether it was staged by some Turkish actors to get more power in northern Cyprus, or it was a spontaneous thing that helps Turkey's power to get Turkey less strong in Cyprus. So in military wise, we are seeing agreement between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel as well. And even though Cyprus is a member of European Union, it's closer to the Middle East more than it's close to European Union mainland. So Cyprus is actually a regional actor in Middle East and Eastern Mediterranean. So for sure, Israel is like Kurds and Druze minorities in Syria. Israel is willing to establish good relationship with Cyprus as well, which is harmful for Turkey, and Turkish presence could be even in danger in northern Cyprus, which is very strategic land for Turkish military presence and Turkey's military power in the Middle East and the region. So basically, I would say Cyprus is quite interesting, and personally, I'm trying to follow what's going on in Cyprus right now. Well, we didn't mention Cyprus in this conversation, but I guess we should have another conversation specifically on Cyprus, because it's fair to say that in coming days or months, we're gonna hear name of Cyprus a lot in international affairs, especially about Turkey.
It's interesting and maybe possible making that talk specifically about Cyprus, but it's really the idea of richness under the sea. On the deep part of the Mediterranean Sea surrounding the island, and I had a look about the idea of changing some kind of, in these 50 years, some kind of home rule in the local community, the upper third part of the island, changing it for a direct rule for the Turkey. Making some kind of clash within the mainland of Turkey, clashing with the local community of Turkish people that probably will not be affected, but the idea of clashing with the rest of the island, part of the European Union, not in the NATO, but there is some kind of the Article 5 in the European community, so it will be some like the same if military action is held, so it will be problematic, very problematic, if that escalates.
Yeah, I totally agree. And remember, it was soon ago, like a very short time ago, Greek, if I'm not mistaken, Greek government has offered membership to Cyprus, NATO membership to Cyprus. which took attention of Turkey and anger of Turkey, actually. So that could be, I don't know, it will be possible for Cyprus to be member of NATO, but it seems a legit and strategic decision of the Greeks, strategic policy of Greek government to try for this.
That is problematic because, as we saw with Finland and Sweden, if only one member say no, it is not possible getting membership, full membership, and for sure, Cyprus membership for NATO, it will be veto from the proper Turkey.
Yeah, for sure, it will be vetoed by Turkey, but I mean Turkey vetoes everyone. You know, they vetoed Sweden, Finland. Like 10 years ago, they vetoed. They were against NATO General Secretary. The former Prime Minister of Denmark to be General Secretary of NATO. I mean, Turkey loves to play a role in NATO because they know they are one of the strongest army in NATO, one of the largest existence in NATO, and they believe that they should have more voice in the organization. So for sure they will say no, but and it will be not easy as Sweden. It will be tougher than Sweden decision. But like I say, I am sure that Greek government and Cyprus will be interested to get NATO membership, even though it will not happen anytime soon. It seems a logical way, a logical decision for both nations to try for this at least.
Yes, because if they were not in the NATO alliance, in a class within Greece and Turkey, all the Western powers will be with Greece, and being in NATO, there will an equilibrium within. Both are in NATO, so there are two fellows, friends of the Western alliance. So it will be difference in that idea of military or politically classes in Aegean Sea, for example.
Yeah, totally agree.
So, if it's anything else for being expressed, or we go for a final statement.
Yeah, thank you so much. I guess we talk most of the things about Turkey and domestic affairs. In a nutshell, let me summarize my idea about the main subject of the conversation. Personally, I don't believe that Erdoğan will step down anytime soon from the power, from the office. The protest is harmful for Erdoğan for sure, but they are not enough to be end of Erdoğan era in Turkey. And I believe soon the protest will be faded. So people who have hope that Erdoğan will step down from the office perhaps will disappointed. The opposition party perhaps will face difficulties to ask people to take street and soon, like couple of weeks.
Good. So it's some kind the end of this talk. If you would want to say something of that about the third current, if you want, or presenting later, that is your idea and opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for hosting me, and I hope people who will see this video will enjoy, and I'm looking forward to see their comments actually.
Well, we will be in another time about Cyprus in certain future.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, and we will see.
Thank you so much, and goodbye.